We're going to go back to the mainland instead. More sailing!
I'm easy going, Adam. It doesn't matter.
So I was tightening up the bolts a little more, tightening. I'm just as bad. I'm like, what's Popeye's wife? She looks like a weakling, but no. Welcome to our self-inflicted adventure.
What seems like a lifetime ago, we left Australia intending to sail our way around the world.
It's been a roller coaster since then, and while the plan has changed many times, we've been laughing our way through and learnt a new lesson for every step of the way.
And between us, the real adventure has only just begun.
Last episode on sailing Millennial Falcon.
What is today? Today is the day that we get the sails. We're going to pick up the head sail and the stay sail. And just like that, for the first time in 3 years, we're all the same colour.
But I think what we're going to do is we're going to head to a little island called Ile Fourchue, which is in between St. Bart's and St. Martin. And we are making such a good angle, it's awesome.
Heave! Come on, put your back into it. You're not in my tug of war team, that's for sure.
This is such a great day for sailing. It's beautiful, beautiful weather out here. I'm really glad that we actually went sailing today. We were thinking about kind of exploring Ile Fourchue, but the rolling just got to us, and I'm actually glad that we left. I'm glad that the rolling drove us away. We're doing about 6 knots, I think, Adam said. It's about 14 knots of wind. There are so many sailboats around, just all having a beautiful day of sailing. It is a Saturday, so it's quite busy out here. But it's glorious. It's really nice. I'm so glad that we went sailing today. It's something that when you're a cruiser, I think, which is quite ironic, but you don't tend to go sailing as much as if you owned a boat. No, doesn't matter.
If you're a weekend warrior. Because your boat's your home, and so it invariably...
I'm mixing my words, so Adam, in correcting me, has explained it better than I could.
I've not corrected you. God, you made me sound like such a Nazi. Whoop, that's not strictly correct, Khiara. I'm easygoing, Adam. It doesn't matter. Everything's fine. As a cruiser, you don't often, you do go sailing a lot, and you go probably further more often, but you tend to sort of settle in. Once you get where you're going, once you get where you're going, you sort of unpack the boat and it becomes your home again, and less of a sort of sailing vessel ready to go at a moment's notice. So when you want to go sailing, you sort of have to clear the decks and clear the counters and put everything away, and all the fancy, all your, anything that can be launched across the room, basically. And so yeah, you tend to resist going sailing. But the last few days, Khiara and I have had the boat buttoned up, and because we sort of slept on anchor in there and then had a swim and had a, just relaxed and looked around, the boat's still buttoned up, so we're off again. Whereas I think if you're a weekend warrior, when you pull into the slip or onto your mooring ball, you hop in your dinghy and you go home, the boat's always ready to go because you don't live on it. So it's a sailboat, and only a sailboat, as opposed to a home.
Anyway, it's a lovely day. It's really nice. I think I think we're about an hour away from Tintamarre, which is on the northern end of St Martin. We were contemplating stopping in there, depending on how crazy and raucous it is, because it is a Saturday and every man and his powerboat will be there. We'll see how it goes.
Who's driving this bus?
Me. It's definitely not me. Looks like a mini Ibiza in there, so we're gonna head. We're going to go back to the mainland instead. More sailing!
Yeah, we wanted to come here to clean the hull. It is a great place to do it, but I just feel a bit, I don't know, I always feel self-conscious doing boat work in like a party place, like a really happy party place. Like I feel we should politely remove ourselves to the administrative anchorage of Marigot, where everybody gets things done as opposed to has fun and, you know, drinks and plays music. And
well, it's just another Friday. So bring your A game, 'cause you know this party won't stop. We can never run out of time, sipping strawberry lime. You know I wanna share it with you, share it with you, share it with you. Hey baby, if you're looking for some crazy, I tell you everybody's having a night for the most part. Come on over, we can take the roller coaster.
Where are we stopping?
I think we'll go in there because it's nice sandy bottoms and I want to clean the hull.
Where's there?
Grand Case. Behind that rock, I think. Need to get rid of the head sail in about a couple of minutes when you're ready.
I'm an absolute numpty. So for the last few days, Adam has been doing our 1-year maintenance on the engine, and that's just like replacing oil, replacing O-rings and impellers and all things like that. What he finally got to the stage of doing was replacing the engine impeller. And I thought I would help just at this stage, and so dumb, he popped everything in and started the engine up. We thought we were done, we'd timed ourselves 42 minutes, now we're smashing this. And I was like, oh no, it's still leaking, there's a little bit of water coming out from it, a tiny, tiny drip every like 3 seconds. So I was tightening up the bolts a little more, tightening, and then suddenly one bolt was like really easy to do. I was like, oh no, okay, I know exactly what happens when bolts are suddenly really easy to turn. It means that the head's broken off. Adam turned off the engine, lo and behold, the head of the bolt had broken off, and it's now stuck in the impeller housing on our engine. And I'm so annoyed with myself because I was trying to change something on the mast very recently and did the exact same thing. I literally have broken 4 bolt heads, 4 screw/bolt heads in the last 3 days. This is ridiculous. I called Adam a Popeye man with his muscles of like breaking bolts and breaking things. Second time we tried to install it was we accidentally broke something. It's also, I guess, a kind of reason for our hiatus as well, was because we were just starting to rush jobs. I'm just as bad. I'm like, what's Popeye's wife?
I don't know, but definitely fit the bill.
She looks like a weakling, but no. So she has a can of spinach. Oh, Daisy? I don't know. So the plan is that I need to fix this, and I need to try and get our 42-minute timer back on track. Oh, I'm such an idiot. I need to just go get a new housing for this impeller and the impeller puller, all associated things, and I would like to do that today. Just wrap this whole project up.
Just before you run away though, Khiara, there's a chance we might be able to take the housing off and, like, you know, force the bolt out. In which case we just need the 4 new bolts and an O-ring, a gasket for the housing. We might get away with that. We'll try that first. One water pump assembly. How to do this? Because it was reefed down so tight, and I guess it bottomed out, there's the tiniest little bit of lip exposed on this face of the water pump. So I've got out the Dremel. I'm going to see if I can just put a little flathead burr in there, and then see if I can get a tiny flathead in there and just back it out the other way. I'm not sure what to do if that doesn't work. We may have to get a new housing, or I don't have a you know, those drill bits that back out screws. I don't have a set of those, unfortunately. Anyway, we'll start with this. I feel like it might work. There's plenty of pump width, like wall thickness, to sort of work with, so I'm not too worried about damaging the housing, and it won't take much to get it out. So let's try that. We'll see what happens. I have movements, but not. Working the fingertips. What? It might be there.
You got it?
Voila.
Ah!
One problem down. One problem solved. And as you can see, the damage on the part is trivial, like barely a nick on the actual body. Now we just need to replace the bolt that broke. I'm going to replace all of them, I think, if we can find them. A new gasket for the water pump assembly to the engine gasket, because that's trashed in pulling it off. And that's it. We're all good. In the interest of keeping things educational, I'm just going to take, before I put it all back together, button it up, put it on the engine and call it a day, I'm just going to take a minute to explain what an impeller does, what it looks like, why it exists, for those who perhaps don't know. So an impeller is part of your engine cooling system. Most engines, not all engines, our engine has a freshwater side and a seawater side, and the freshwater side has all the coolant in it, and it just circles in a closed loop, cycles the coolant through what's called a heat exchanger, which cycles salt water through it, and the salt water comes in through the main seacock, up through the sea strainer, which is a little basket, filters out all the crud. It goes through the heat exchanger and then exchanges the heat to the freshwater coolant, which goes through the engine's internal working parts, ultimately keeping the engine cool. The impeller is essentially a water pump. Well, it is a water pump. So this is the water pump assembly. Slides into the engine. This sprocket marries up to the engine's inner parts. So the engine starts turning, the V-drive pumps away, turns the sprocket, which then turns the impeller. As you can see, it starts to turn like this. So water comes in one way, finds its way into this reservoir, gets pushed around the circuit until it gets to here, and then it gets pushed out the other way and carries on out through the exhaust via the mixing elbow and all of that stuff. The sole purpose of this impeller is to bring seawater in, cycle it through the heat exchange, and spit it out the back. If you lose your impeller blade, no water will be coming out the back, and the heat exchange will not be exchanging heat, and therefore the freshwater side, the coolant will start to boil off, it'll start spitting the dummy, coolant goes everywhere, engine overheats and shuts down. So this is a kind of an important part of your engine. How did you go?
For once, I actually got every single thing that I needed. They had everything. It was ridiculous, and I found everything so easily. And I'm back in an hour. That's like practically unheard of whenever you go to the shops. So while I did not get an extra bolt in case I thread a second one, I have enough to replace everything that is broken and to fix more parts on the engine anyway. This is good. All right, crisis averted. The impeller is back on. The fuel filters have changed. Oil filters have changed.
Oil has changed.
Oil has changed. I say this like I've done absolutely anything. Adam has done every single thing, and I think I broke a bolt for him. So I'm staying away from that one next year.
Insert Ralph Wiggum. I'm helping.
Okay, see, these are the kind of things that people don't necessarily see what we do at Anchor, because it might just be like a boring job. But
we never planned to put any of this in the video. It's only because, you know, we were like, we'll spare you all the nitty-gritty boring, you know, impeller change, fuel filter change. Everyone's making videos on that. There's plenty of how-tos about how to change the impeller and whatnot. But then a bolt broke and a story unfolded, so we were like, well...
So we don't just sit here reading in the sunshine.
Unfortunately not. Although this is like a 250 hourly job. Or like...
Or 1 year.
1 year. So, you know, tick that box for a while.
Yeah, I know.